Happy Thursday. How y'all doing? How you doing? How you been? All right now. All right now. It is Thursday. Oh, look who was first in the chat today. Miss Greta, how are you? Hey, and our friends at Howard Worldview. Long time no see, friends. Hope you all are doing well. It is Thursday and it is still April, which means it's still Financial Literacy Month, which, if you've been following and tuning in, this month I've dedicated this channel to up leveling our financial literacy so that we can get from where we are to where we want to be. And if you are watching this channel, pretty much know where you want to be is really abroad. So I am, for those of you who do not know me, I'm Krishan Wright. I'm the founder of Black Sit Global and the host of the Black Sit Global podcast. Black Sit Global exists to empower and inspire members of the African diaspora to pursue a new life abroad. It's so funny. Like right now, I feel like a head. I think like my camera's weird. I got distracted. I digress. But it is so nice to be here tonight. Let's see who else is in the chat. Oh, there's something fire. Yes, caught alive. Thank you for tuning in. Yes. CK. Hey, from Lisboa. Yes. And I am in Lisbon, Portugal. Yes, I am in the flesh. Hey, Tracy, our guest from last week. Yes. So if you haven't watched that one, tune into that. Hey, one of our channel members are here. Hey, Iris, how are you? Iris is in the house. Yo, y'all, I had big plans today. I was going to be at the beach today. And the weather in Portugal has been beautiful. But guess what? I was pooped. And why, might you ask? Because last night we had a time. Our friends from Exodus Summit, Stefanie Perry and Rashida Dow, are in town. And you probably have been following their yacht journey from Bermuda all the way to Lisbon. They have been on this fabulous yacht for like 11 or 12 days, and then they docked here. We got to meet, and for me, it was the first time meeting them in the flesh in 4 years, and it was just a love fest. And shout out to my business partner extraordinaire, Halisi Vinson from Our Black Utopia, and of course, Rick. And oh my gosh, we had such a wonderful time last night at Soul Kitchen in Lisbon. Ate lots of food. We had about 30 people show up. There's tons of pictures. Some are showing up in different stories. I'll be putting something together soon. But shout out to everyone that came out and supported last night. It was really a lot of fun. And again, to Halisi, you did a fabulous, fabulous job coordinating. And speaking of our friends, Our Black Utopia, we are combining forces once again, and we are hosting our summer meetup, our Juneteenth Freedom Meetup in Lisbon, Portugal. It's a 2-day event. And the first day, we will actually be at Soul Kitchen. So for those of you who were here last night, you got a taste of what the food is like and the atmosphere, the ambiance. And then the second day, we're going to be on a boat. Yes, on the Tejo in Lisbon. So it's going to be fun. So if you are interested in partaking, I think there may be a seat or two left on the boat. I know we have more tickets to the restaurant than we do the boat, but this is your chance to get in. We have about, maybe 70 tickets sold. So there's not that much room left on the boat. So don't miss the boat. Get your ticket. And in terms of other announcements, oh yes, Marguerite was there. Yes. yes. Blacks at Global was in the house. Yes, yes. And in terms of more announcements, we'll be talking a lot tonight with my next guest on lots of topics related to financial independence. And part of financial independence, not always, but usually, it involves liberating yourself in many forms, including your job, which you might want to get a ticket to the Job Liberation Summit that is taking place. It's coming up soon, and it is the Job Liberation Summit for Black women. Yes, yes, yes. We will have more on the channel in the coming weeks, but stay tuned. Dr. Kimani, who was on the podcast, no, she was on our YouTube channel about a month or two ago, maybe a couple months ago. Let's just say a couple months ago. And Marissa, they are doing this, they're putting on this wonderful summit. Great speakers, including Stefanie Perry, Libria Jones. There's also, let's see, the anti-HR lady. It's going to be jam-packed. So if you want to liberate yourself from a toxic job, which can also set you up for financial independence, you heard it here first, you might want to grab a ticket. So you can use that link there. And I'm going to say hello to a few more of you. And then I'm going to bring up my wonderful guests for tonight. Yes, yes, yes. Oh, Callie CJ is here. Hey, hey, hey. What? Hey, hey, hey. How you doing? And Serene Wealth. Oh, love the name. Yes, Manchester, England. Wow, it's freezing there. It was warm here and then got a little chilly. See, CK was there. Yes, last night was amazing. It was. And we've been busy. Hey, Jess. We've been busy in Blacks of Global. We had our freedom dinner last Friday. It was 11 of us, and we welcomed our 3 new members to Portugal that moved here. So one just moved 3 weeks ago, another a month ago, and one in late December, early January. So look, if you're a Black person and you want to move abroad, I'm your girl. You might want to get into Blacks at Global Passport. You might want to get in there. We've got a new episode of the Blacks at Global podcast. Hey, Wesley, dropping on Monday. And you got to tune in. Hey, Carmen. Thank you. I appreciate it. I love doing the podcast and love the channel. So, hey, Comfort. Hey. So, without further ado, so like I said, it's Financial Literacy Month, right? And one of the things that I think holds a lot of people back from making their move abroad are finances. But what if you could also completely liberate yourself financially, right? Where you didn't necessarily have to work, right? It could be work optional instead of work mandatory. So my next guest that I'm going to have a wonderful conversation, I'll reveal more of how we got acquainted. But without further ado, I'm going to bring them up on the stage, Joe and Steph, who are also in Portugal. Hey, y'all.
Down the road.
Right down the road.
Can you hear me?
Yes. Yeah. Can you hear us?
Yes.
Okay.
How y'all doing?
We're good.
Staying awake as parents do, trying your best anyway.
Yes. So for our guests, if you read the description of the video, Joe and Steph have 2 young boys, and it is after 10 p.m. in Portugal. So we're going to try not to be too loud so they can stay sleeping and the parents can have some fun.
We got a sound machine. We're good.
Yeah. Okay. We'll have some fun tonight. But you two are amazing people, first and foremost, and you have an incredible journey and story to share. And I wanted to give this audience some inspiration as well as tactical ways that they can improve and fire up their finances, whether it is to move abroad or just to liberate themselves from situations that don't serve them. So since you both have, like I said, individual stories and then your story together as a couple, wanted to give you time to introduce yourselves.
Go ahead, Joseph.
Oh, me first. Wow. Stephanie does a lot more podcasts and stuff than I do. I used to do a lot more. Well, I'll go ahead and introduce myself. I am Joseph Gonzales, a former school teacher with a master's in education, but I only used that for roughly 5 years. And then I got into entrepreneurship and digital marketing. Still run a digital marketing agency, but primarily focus on helping agents sell real estate and then jumping back into real estate myself because I missed it and I love it and I like seeing big, beautiful houses. So that's what I'm doing these days.
Yeah. My name is Stefanie Gonzales, originally from Texas, which is where Joseph is from as well. We did not meet until well into our 20s, though. I had no idea who each other was. But yeah, I spent 15 years in tech after the strong desire to climb the corporate ladder. But as the story goes, my husband introduced me to F.I.R.E, and my data and analytical brain it all clicked. And we were really fortunate that we had made some small micro steps along the way in our journey together as a couple to be able to really take advantage of, I think, all of the hard work we had been putting into all of our life in the last 15 plus years. And now we are where we are with our two little boys, now having lived in Singapore and now Portugal. And I'm now the owner of a personal finance brand specifically focused on women, professional women, helping them activate their hard-earned income and invest for financial independence, called the Women's Wealth Effect.
Yes. And I have been a guest on your wonderful platform, Women's Wealth Effect. And Joseph, some people might already recognize him, was a speaker at the Move to Portugal virtual summit that I co-hosted with Our Black Utopia last year. So this is a bit of a reunion of sorts.
Yeah.
And you guys are YouTubers. So you have your YouTube channel as well.
Yes. Joseph and I decided to start the YouTube channel right before we moved from Singapore. And I tell people at that point in time, I was excited, but I wasn't ready. And so this past November, after getting to Portugal, getting the kids in school settled, we brought it back up. And so you can find us at Permission to Be Wealthy on YouTube, where we're trying to post a video a week.
Yeah, we'll get back to it.
Yeah.
We were doing 2 or 3 a week. And I think that was like too fast and too furious for two parents.
Trying to do all the other things.
Yeah.
But we're getting there.
Other things.
Yeah. It's progress over perfection.
Yes.
And I've watched your videos. They have a high production value. So I can appreciate that churning out that much content in a short period of time while raising 2 young boys is a lot.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
So let's talk about that. And what I love about your channel, outside of the content, is the title, right? Which I think fits aptly with our discussion for tonight, Permission to Be Wealthy. And why did you name your channel that?
You're the birth child of the name.
Well, first off, I have a marketing background. I've been doing it since I've been doing it since I was at least in high school because I used to help my dad, who's an insurance agent, come up with marketing material. I guess just like a freshman in high school. So my brain's always thought of ways that allow people to find and connect with the thing that you want them to find, right? And so for us, we found a way to give ourselves permission to be wealthy. And so I thought, how do we give other people the opportunity to learn some of the things that we've done in order to give themselves permission to be wealthy? And so it just kind of flowed into that. And, of course, you do name searches and stuff like that. And that's how it came about. And now I think it's the meaning carries a lot more, right,
Yeah.
than the
Yes.
URL does, right?
Mhm.
Yeah. Because what it resonated with me was, I thought about it like, wow, what a great title. Because so much of FIRE or, just getting a handle of your finances isn't the math, right? We've all been to school. We know
Mhm.
1 + 1. It's the
Mhm.
mindset.
Mhm.
And it oftentimes is the mindset, those early lessons that happen in life, your money story shows up in how you behave with money, how you interact with money, and your beliefs around it. So much so that it's almost like once you give yourself that permission, like, yeah, I too can be wealthy
Yeah.
in
Mhm.
however form or fashion that means to you. I think that's
Mhm.
where the magic happens.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, mindset is, I think, probably one of the most difficult things for people to get a grasp on, right? Because I think you can go through these stages of why does that person have the success that they have? Why does that person have the financial success that they have? Why you can keep blaming other people and other things, but until you give yourself permission to, like you said, Rashawn, to say, I deserve that. I give myself permission to have that. Then you start opening yourself up to these things. But a lot of people don't think about all the negative things that they're thinking in order
Mhm.
to flip those things into like, how can I have that versus like, that person, I despise that person for whatever reason, which makes no
Mhm.
sense until you do give yourself permission, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah. And you think about things like moving abroad,
Mhm.
questioning everything, breaking down norms,
Mm.
going against the grain, right? Mindset's a big part of it, and believing that it's for you. And people ask us all the time, like, how do you do all this stuff and like have made these massive changes? And I used to say, like, oh, when it happens in threes and stuff like that. But I do think that because we've gotten so used to trusting each other and giving ourselves permission to try, and if it does or doesn't work, that's okay.
yeah,
Right?
Mhm.
Worst case scenario for us at this point, and many people who pursue FIRE or leave their careers, they have to go
Mhm.
back to do that
Mhm.
thing. And that's not horrible,
Mhm.
right? But I think just giving yourself to Joe's point, the permission to change your mindset and explore that has been life changing for me because I'm a very different person over the last
completely.
5 years. In a good way.
Yes,
Yeah.
in a great way
Yeah.
for all of
Oh,
us.
I love it. I love you too. Yeah, it's great. And definitely what it resonated with the audience because the couple of new subscribers.
Sweet. Thank you.
New subscribers. And
Hey,
Jess A said, code your brain for success, right?
yeah.
Absolutely.
Because, I think conditioning is like, oh, what if I move abroad and I, lose my job or I get sick or, all of these things.
Mhm.
And then it's like, yeah, but what if you move abroad and you actually love it and you expand your friend circle? Maybe you start a business or,
Mhm.
like go for the
Gosh,
positive.
yeah.
Or if I invest this money, what if the market goes down? I mean, like,
Mhm.
yes,
Mhm.
it can happen, right? But
Yeah.
how do you start to educate yourself? How do you start to, code your brain for success by uh, having like information and some cases influencers, right, that start to demonstrate to you that there's
Mhm.
a different way of living. So I'm curious,
Mhm.
Mhm.
with you two as a couple, right? Yes, you both grew up in Texas. You've been together for a long time, but you're still both individuals. So
Mhm.
Mhm.
how did you get on the same page? Because you said Joseph was the one that brought it to you, Stephanie, like, hey, you
Mhm.
know what? Let's talk about this FIRE thing. So how was
Yeah.
it that you were able to like get on the same page?
Yeah. Yeah. I tell people that at the beginning of our relationship, one of the things was really having a common ground on our like dreams. And we kind
Mm,
of talked about this the other day driving down by the water. Like, how is it that we're here now?
Mm.
And 10 years ago, right, we were talking about, would it be nice to live in Europe?
Mhm.
And the ship has like continued to sail in that direction because we had this somewhat of a North Star that was a dream.
Mhm.
And then I think the second piece was, as we were navigating my career, and Joseph was really supportive in my career. Like, I made it very clear to him, I was a very ambitious, independent woman, and he worked to peel back the onion and help me with that. But
I think I latched on. I think when she said I'm for, I was like, yeah, let's go. That's what I think.
all right, in for the ride, baby. But I think that support, and then me really understanding what he wanted to do and becoming an entrepreneur ultimately, we decided to live off of one income at the time of what I was making, right?
Mhm.
And so everything that we made beyond that, we did not inflate our lifestyle much. I mean, I think we made some probably not subpar decisions,
Yeah,
but
for sure.
in general, because we're human.
Yeah.
But in general, we never bought a house more than one income could afford, right? And so some of these choices that we made started setting us down a path of making good decisions. But where the FIRE piece really came into the picture was, we were in Singapore. I'd gotten asked to move there for my job, and Joseph dropped everything to come with me there. We didn't have kids at the time. And so then he grew his marketing agency even more, interestingly enough, there, because of his proximity to the Philippines and being able to build the team and just the process rigor that he has a really good knack of doing. But as my career grew and as I became a mom, I became really discontent with a lot of things. There was a lot of friction for me in my life, how I wanted to show up as a wife, a mom, a businesswoman, like all these things. And so we ultimately went to couples therapy to figure out what was going on. And you always go to couples therapy thinking you're going to like therapy the other person. And it was all like, let's figure Stefanie out. Which was good, because at one point our therapist asked us to go home and think about our worst case scenario. If Stefanie left this crazy big job, what would you guys do? And we ultimately started talking about FIRE,
Mhm.
and we revisited our budget, and we looked at our net worth, and we have like a little notebook of all the things that we wrote down. And from that point on, that I, got onto YouTube and started actually watching all the videos that Joseph had been sending me for years, but I didn't give the time.
Didn't have the time to. Didn't have the time to.
Fair,
Yeah.
thank you.
Wow.
But at that point, it was like, he had been trying to open the window of opportunity for us to have this real discussion about what he knew financial independence could give us, which was freedom.
Yeah.
I just wasn't ready yet, but I was very much ready in that moment. And so I put my planning and forecasting experience to the test at that point and was like, all right, here's what the job is for. We're going to use every bit of benefits that we possibly have. Let's have our second kid. Let's get it paid for. We'll be here at this company for as long as, this financial plan says. And let's start talking about where we go next. And Portugal was on the radar.
Mhm.
We just thought it was going to be way later, and it ended up being a lot sooner than we had anticipated, which has been really cool.
Yeah.
It's been really cool.
Fantastic.
Wow, what a wonderful story. Like, you took us on this like whole arc, and I love how you talked about, for you, you had a mindset shift, right? Going through couples therapy, and first and foremost, thank you for the transparency and candor. And sometimes it's a hard thing for people when they go into therapy to be, introspective and receptive. Sometimes we want to put our guards up in defense. It's like, no, like you said, other the person, like, I'm not here for me, right? But then to be open and be like, wow, you know what? The mirror was held to my face, and I see, like, it takes two to tango, right? And so for you, as you started to be more intentional, right, with respect to your job, not saying that you do less, but you realize that your job has a place. And sometimes I think
Absolutely.
the line and the boundaries of a job, especially in today's modern world, tends to bleed into other areas of our lives that years past or earlier years were more sacred, like family time or, religious time or whatever that those barriers and those or boundaries rather were. People go on vacation, right? Now they're tethered to a phone. I've seen pictures of people, giving having a child and they have their laptop on their belly and I'll be there in a minute, like,
Yes.
Yeah.
yeah. So and you had this, like you said, this strategy with respect to like, living on one income, being aggressive with your investing and putting work in its place. So when you redefine those boundaries, was it easier to then walk away from what the original plan was in terms of your career paths?
Well, I'll answer it this way first.
Hmm.
Once Stephanie got the numbers down, it was like she changed gears and was, as our kids would say today, Hot Wheels, let's race to get done. Because she had this original plan and she was mathing it out, right? It's like, yeah, that seems good. We can be here for another year and a half, 2 years, or whatever it
I was
was.
going to take another contract.
Yeah, she's gonna take another contract. I was like, yeah, that's fine. And then one day she came back in. She was like, I think
It was like a
faster.
bad. It was like a bad meeting, and I went back and redid the plan. I was like, nope.
I think we can do it faster. And I was like, okay, I guess we're doing it. She was like, I think we can be done. I think it was like
It went from leave the company at the end of 2024 to it's either December or April.
yeah, that's exactly
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I was
that
like,
was in 2022, 2021, 2022.
yeah. So it would have been technically this year that we would have,
August.
but in August would have been whenever our original plan would have put us in semi-retirement.
Well, and we would have been to the full FIRE number that we originally established at that point, and that was the reason why 2024 was the date.
Yeah.
Okay.
But here's the thing that I talk to people about a lot when it comes to pursuing FIRE. There's 100% you're at your FIRE number, which is your investments are enough where you can withdraw 4% ish and live and cover your living expenses, right? So if you're trying to figure out your FIRE number, and if you're on the call wanting to know how to do this, you take your monthly living expenses, what you estimate they'll be in retirement, of course, but you can use your current just for kicks and giggles right now. Multiply that by 12 to get your annual number, and then multiply that by 25. That gives you your FIRE number. So for us at that point, it was 1.8 million. And because I then had this total mindset shift in how money worked and our ability and our skills. And I tell people, like, I started coaching women on these personal finance topics and pursuing the same thing. It was like my heart was now in this other place and it was no longer in tech. And I knew that we were going to be okay because we've always made it work because we're motivated. We have goals. We have 2 little boys, right? And so while we're not at our full FIRE number, we're at a point where one of our incomes is completely covered. We just have a little bit more to go, right? And so life is really important, and these moments, to your point, are really precious. We had this opportunity to take a step back and give ourselves some grace. And it is really changed just the way that our life flows. And it's given us more time together at an earlier age than we ever would have.
Yes, so much more time together.
And so it doesn't always have to be the full number. There could be ways of working to the end goal just through a different path as well, right? But being a bit clear about the options that you have available to yourself and having this abundance mindset has been really helpful for us.
Yeah. And that mindset, like, so we started off the conversation, is so important. And knowing that, hey, I don't have to get to the full number. And that might be something that, for someone who's watching this right now, who is either type A, which I never identified as type A. I would describe myself as someone who's type B with type A tendencies. But like goal oriented, but still kind of laid back. Like, so, but sometimes when you have that, like achievement focused, like tunnel vision, you feel like this internal pressure to get to goal. If I get to goal, I have to get to goal. Like there's no other option.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
what I like about how FIRE has evolved, financial independence, retire early, for anyone who's like coming into this conversation, like, what FIRE?
What's on fire?
Is to realize that there's a spectrum, and that you don't have to be like full FIRE or fat. Well, I guess fat FIRE is bigger than that. And we'll go into
Yeah.
some of the differences for the audience's benefit, but is to realize like you don't have to get all the way to goal. Or if you get all the way to goal and you say, hey, but I want to pursue, working part-time or some other passions, you don't have to say, well, if I do this, then people are going to think like I need money, or I'm not really retired. Like you have to, like you said before, give yourself some grace, start to decondition yourself from the noise and the soundtracks that
Mhm.
people have been, either saying or just things that you've absorbed in the environment, and release and relieve yourself of all of that, because that too is part of the evolution in being better with your finances.
Yeah, I think there's a lot to be said to the situation that we're in,
Mm.
because the stress level has been way down. And it's interesting, even though we make less money now, actively make less money, the passive income that we have through our investments allows us to pursue the things that we really enjoy,
Mm.
right? And so we don't put the same pressure that we would have put on ourselves while we were getting active income from our jobs. So, for example, Stephanie loves what she does. Like anytime she gets off of a coaching call with her clients, she comes in and tells me all the stories. And it's not like the calls that she was having whenever she was working at her corporate company, where she'd come in to be like, that was a really rough day, or that was an awesome day, but it's
Disaster.
exhausting.
Yeah.
Like her enjoyment and excitement is at a different level. And I think the same for me. So for those of you who are watching that are in this position where you're like, I can move somewhere else, right? Which we call location arbitrage, and live off of less wherever that place is for you, right? If you have family, you got to think about all those things, but take some of that stress out of your life. And I'm not telling you what to do. This is your life, of course, but we took some of that stress out of our lives, put ourselves in the position to not have to spend as much in location, feel safer where we are, and then get to pursue the things that we really enjoy. Even though we make less active income, our passive income supports us in these things. And so any additional money that we make just goes towards our living or towards our investments. And just, it's more fun that way. I think it's way more enjoyable than getting on calls with people we don't want to get on calls.
The other interesting thing, about this, and you and I, Krishan, were talking about this yesterday. You're now in the position to have really interesting conversations with people you would never have had the time to meet over lunch. Or now Joseph, in the work that he does, like he gets to meet real estate developers all across Portugal.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
And we talked to my brother the other day, and he gets access to all these interesting people in the crypto space, and we get to talk about that because we just have the time. And we wouldn't have done that before, because it would have been 7 o'clock on calls, 6 o'clock have dinner,
Back on
breathe,
calls.
back on calls at 9, all the way to 12, go to sleep.
Yeah. Rinse and repeat.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's so interesting. Every day looks different, but in a different good way to like really enrich your life.
Yeah. Today was probably the hardest working day Today was probably the hardest working day I've had in 2 years.
You made it look so hard on your Instagram.
It was a tough day looking at multi-million houses today and filming them, but it was a long day.
Yeah.
But it was fun, right? Because I was with people that I wanted to be around. I was being creative, right? Around other people who want to be creative. We were filming properties for families who want to sell these properties so that they can create a better life for their families. And so like you start putting all these things together and you're like, this is what it was a work day, but it was a very enjoyable work day. Right. And
Yeah.
in the past, I would be on calls with people coaching them on how to do this stuff. And I'm like, now I get to do it again. I used to do in the US. And it's so much more fun getting to actively do this stuff. And yeah, to Stephanie's point, if I was still doing all the coaching that I was doing previously, there would be no way that I'd have time to go do this stuff.
Yeah.
Right. So yeah, more time, more fun, more good people.
Yeah.
Like yourself.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
'Cause you have that passion, like you light up, and and the people around you see that, right? You're attracting people around you that are oftentimes like-minded. You're having these, the depth of the conversation, the quality of the conversation. And then you're just like, is this really real? Like,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
chose this
There's
for
a lot of
yourself.
those days.
Yeah.
Yeah, there are a lot of those days for us.
Yes.
I think we ask ourselves that at least once a week. Is this our life? Is this really what we're
Really?
doing right now?
Yeah.
And it's good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's fantastic. So before I go into the questions, and for those of you who are watching live, feel free to drop some questions in the chat. We're going to get to those in a sec. So before we get there, I wanted to go back a little bit and talk about like the different levels for FIRE, just to help people kind of level set. You talked about full FIRE. I see Greta in the comment. She said she's looking at lean FIRE. So if you wouldn't mind sharing what that is and what it looks like.
Yeah. So let's start lean FIRE up, right? So lean FIRE is if you are pursuing investments that can allow you to live off of around $40,000 a year-ish, right? And you may be able to accomplish lean FIRE by moving to a lower cost location, paying off your house entirely. There's lots of different ways that people do that. But I think it's interesting. It's also a way of life, like really like stripping back some of the things that might have been really materialistic and just not necessary, which is really cool and liberating. Barista FIRE is where your investments are supplementing a part of your income and you're still doing some other type of work. In a way, we're kind of there, right? So investments are fueling your expenses partially, and then you're maybe taking part-time work or passion project, right? Those types of things. Then you have your full FIRE. So whatever you need to ultimately live off of, full expenses covered. And that varies depending on where you're living. So if you're like in New York or California and that's where you want to live, you may need $3 to $5 million to live comfortably in retirement, right? Or you move to Texas or Florida or another country, right? And that could look very different for you.
Iowa, Wyoming.
Yes. And then that FIRE is $2.5 million. So about $10,000 a month is what you would be aiming to live off of. And those are just general trendy names, right, that people have attached to different concepts of FIRE. And I actually, in my coaching program have that type of staging for women to at least think through to try to unlock do I need to stay in this for this long? Or, are there things that can be pieced together here that will allow me to just reclaim some of my time? And the thing that I think about a lot is tomorrow is not guaranteed. Your health isn't always guaranteed.
Yeah.
And the world is super connected now in the sense that disruptions across the globe impact everybody.
Yes.
Right? COVID obviously taught us that. So I ask people to take a lens on their planning. Like, what does that look like for you if something like that changes? And what would you make different in terms of decision making so that you could live some of your life? It's really important.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I love that you said that. I'm going to go back into the chat. I see some questions and comments. Yes, Greta said, use your job to fund your dreams. And Jess asked, let's see if it's going to come up. My mouse My mouse is being shy. At what age did Steph get the wake up call? I need a change. I can't keep wearing all these hats.
Oof.
That's a good one. So we had our first son around the age of 35. It's a geriatric pregnancy. That's such an interesting.
Who comes up
But,
with these names?
I know, like, a man.
Yeah,
But anyway,
exactly.
that being said, we were around 35, 36 whenever we started having this like real, what do we do here conversation. By 37, we had paid off all of our debt. We became millionaires. And then we were leaving Singapore at 38. And so I tell people too, our progress seems like, oh, from 35 to 38, this massive change happened. That's it. Like it can happen overnight. But you have to remember that since the age of 22 or early 20s, we've been working at building, acquiring skills, leveraging our network, all these things, and then choosing a partner that we can really grow with and has like aligned values.
Yeah.
And so all these things have built up to this series of years that are now kind of behind us and we're still living. But yeah, mid-30s is where we were.
Wow.
With the change.
Yes.
Yeah. My wake up call for Jeff was I was a poor broke school teacher. And I was like, I don't want to be a poor broke school teacher for the rest of my life. I got a master's in education, which only gives me like a $10,000 raise at the height of, being a principal at the time. Now it's higher. And I was like, what am I doing here?
So is inflation though. So
Yeah.
it's higher,
Yeah.
but
Yeah, exactly. And so I think having those, and not to say you can't do it as a teacher, right? I was living a way different lifestyle, way different lifestyle. And so I think that was my wake up call. And I started studying more on FIRE. And, I wasn't the best saver. And I think whenever Stefanie and I met, I think that and understanding her career and what we could possibly do and what I could do as an entrepreneur and learning from other entrepreneurs, I was like, this is the path we could get on. We needed to be on the same path together, right? Earning together, learning together.
You keep the insurance. I do this, like,
exactly. Yeah, make it work out. But yeah, I think early for me, I think that was a wake up call. Just knowing that I didn't want to do that. Like my mom's still a school teacher. She's a wonderful school teacher. She loves teaching. She's also an amazing coach. She has several state championships as a coach in Texas.
Wow, good for her.
Yeah,
multiple. It's crazy.
Yeah, she's probably 3 to 5 years away from retirement herself.
I'm gonna write this date on my calendar, and I'm gonna come up.
Yeah, it seems like 3 to 5 years every time we ask. So we'll see. But yeah, I think for anybody that that asks like Jeff, it's also dependent on what you're feeling too. Like if you can make a change that can expedite it, that's something to consider. Just write down your pros and cons, and if you need to, ask Stefanie for her spreadsheet, and that might help you a little bit because it's pretty thorough.
Yes, and let's talk about this spreadsheet because for those of you who, in the description of this video, I've linked some resources, so definitely check those out. We have one from Stefanie and one from Joseph. You want to book a call with him, and also Stefanie has the spreadsheet, which we're going to talk about. So Steph, so how did the spreadsheet, I know you talked about having this forecasting background, so you and Excel are probably
we're besties. We're very
besties,
good
right?
friends.
So how did
I'd like to tell I think Stefanie slept with Excel more nights, or went to sleep with Excel more nights while we're in Singapore than she did with me.
Fair enough.
So that tells you how close she is with Excel.
Like, what are you talking about? Where's this going? Okay.
Stefanie's face started turning red immediately.
All truth telling here.
So yeah, Excel and Stefanie are really good friends.
Yeah, I was like, how do I say thank you, Joseph, for I teed it up. So
clarifying. Yeah, so a couple things. It was super frustrating to me to look at my investments as I was trying to navigate, okay, where am I going? And I would look at stuff that was always backwards looking. And to be fair, right, we always talk about, oh, the S&P 500 delivers a 10% rate of return annually. And, oh, but that's historical. That doesn't always predict the future. And that's fair. But my experience working in tech was this real mindset shift at the company, going like, we can't look at historical data all the time and expect that we're going to really make some like innovative, massive changes on what we need to be doing in the future. Like, we need to start really taking some bets. We need to get aligned. We need to trust that all of the data mining or assumptions that we're putting together are going to head us in the right direction, right? Steer us there. And so after seeing that in my work, I told myself, I was like, if I can create billion-dollar plans for a company, I know I can create our million-dollar, multi-million-dollar plan for ourselves. And if I can make this simple and relatable and allow people to put their life footprint on this versus what, for example, like the compound interest calculator online is great if you want to get some like quick, dirty math done and like go, if I want to invest $500 a month forever, what's this going to get me? But the reality is your income changes. You may go after promotions. You need a way to kind of revisit your plan and say, like, am I headed in the right direction? Am I doing what I said I was going to do? All these things, right? And so this Excel spreadsheet takes 9 inputs and it allows you to answer 3 very specific questions, actually 4. How much do I need to invest in order to retire or relax early? How long do I need to invest to hit independence? Can I do this early? Can I reach independence early? And what is my FIRE number? And there's a lot of like, knowledge is power, but having a plan is even more powerful. And so these, people ask me, just like it was asked today, what was your kind of mind shift moment? When, what age? I get to see women have literally these light bulb moments. Like, I can now envision myself being a millionaire. I can now envision myself retiring someday. And so it's now a motivator because you now see your North Star, what you should expect. And you can hold your financial advisor accountable if they're telling you like, oh, all these things are going to get you. If they don't, then you got to go revisit your plan, right? And so I think it puts a lot of stress points in your plan and your thinking to at least go, hey, if I take action here, here's the outcome I expect. And that's ultimately what the planner does.
Yeah, I love it. It's powerful. And it goes back to what we started our conversation about, like the mindset shift, like believing that you too, the person that you're looking back at in the mirror, can be a millionaire or whatever that goal is, right? Some people don't
whatever the number
need,
is.
you need to be able to lean into it. And, I also, I feel like once I hit the million status, I was like, oh, wow. But I'm still Krishan, right?
Yeah, still the same person. Yeah.
Same person. I just have more money.
Yes. Yeah, it's so interesting. Interesting.
And freedom of
Like,
time to take, long lunches with people like Stefanie.
Yes.
Yes. Oh my gosh, so fun.
I was jealous of
With
you
gelato.
ladies the other day. Yeah. She came back. She was like, "Oh, we had good lunch. We had gelato. We walked." I was like, "What happened to my day?"
Kids.
Picked up the kids.
Playground.
Played on the playground. Went to a hot playground. This was awesome. But I get to do that too, right?
Yeah.
So it's,
Yes. Yeah. It was our time yesterday.
That's right.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
But that's the beauty of, having these like opportunities to connect and the depth and the quality of the conversations and things like that. And so that I think is what, is on the other side. So sometimes people, and I guess this is a great question too, or maybe comment based on something you said earlier, was like the visioning process, right? Of, okay, what is our goal? What does that look like for us as a family? Where do we live? What type of passion projects do we want to pursue? And then
Mhm.
having that, individual vision, because like Joseph, you have, your real estate now, you're being able to have the time to do these things. You lit up when you were talking about it. Stephanie, you got, passionate about helping women pursue, and understand their finances. And so just being able to kind of zero in on that just unlocks so much. And so it allows people to say, what does this look like? But if it stays
Mhm.
nebulous, then it's like, well, maybe it'll never happen.
Oh,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah. That's like the
Intention.
Well,
So important.
yeah, intention's really important, and it's like the old saying, right? Someday is never, right?
Mm.
And so if you sit there and say someday we'll have this, right? Which you do that when you're young, and we all do. That's called dreaming, right,
Yeah.
of that life. But whenever we started, we got access to something that allowed us to individually, and you kind of hit on this, go write our own plans
Mhm.
on what does a dream life look like,
Mm.
right? What does that look like? What does the day-to-day life look like? What does all this look like? And then we came back together, and I'm sure we probably have the paper somewhere. And then we said, how does this align, right? Together as a couple. We're already married,
Mhm.
but what is this dream life now moving forward? And I think if you are a couple or if you're individual, I think actually sitting down to say, what does this life look like for me? What does my financially free life look like?
That was so hard for me to fill out too.
Yeah, I remember you were like,
I was like, I'm working until 65, right? Question mark, right?
That's what
I
they
feel- I
told
feel
us.
like- yeah, exactly. That's what everybody says. I'm pretty sure Stephanie's like, can I just see yours? And I was like, no, this is not a cheating test. This is not a share test. This is
Come on,
individual.
man.
Your dream life is my dream life.
Yeah.
But luckily, it was pretty similar.
Yeah.
I mean, but yeah, I think each person don't dream about someday, right?
Mm.
Have a plan, like Stephanie, talks about in the planner. Have a plan, whatever that looks like for you. But then also write down that dream life so you know what it looks like. And if you can bring those two things together, again, either individually or with your spouse or significant other, come together and put those things together, and then you can put that on the wall somewhere by your computer, wherever you're working. Because I remember specifically, I gave Stephanie, I was like, all right, this is the number, whatever that information was, like, put it by your computer.
Yes.
And I had one, and I put it by the bathroom door,
Yeah.
right? So every morning I would see mine, and she saw
Yeah.
hers every day by the computer. And lo and behold, guess what happened? I mean, I'm not calling it manifesting, but it allows you to remember what you're doing instead of going, oh, I'm going to play on the phone today, or
Absolutely.
I'm going to do this thing and waste 3 hours today.
The other thing too is like if you tell somebody, hey, go calculate your FIRE number, and then they see this
Gigantic
$1.82
number.
million number in front of them, they're like, what? And so the planner also helps you break this down into, okay, every month, what do I need to strive for? That's your goal. Every single month, stay consistent, fulfill that commitment. That's all you're asking of yourself, right? And there's probably things that you have to do to like make space for, open the accounts, whatever. But instead of feeling like I need to be at the 2 million right now, it allows you to see what steps you have to take, celebrate those steps as you go.
Yeah.
Even when we saw that our net worth was $1 million, I remember sitting there and Joseph was like, are you excited? And I was like,
Yeah, she would not let herself be excited. It was so
he
true.
was like, can we call your mom and tell her? And I was like,
Yeah, I was like, let's call somebody. Let's do something.
he did the same thing too when we paid off our debt. I was like, I'm gonna go to a meeting now.
Yeah, we paid off our house specifically, and I remember in cash. I guess you don't write checks anymore, right? You push it into a computer, and I was like, "Are you excited?" Same thing, and she was like, "Mm-hmm." What kind of excitement?
Our son does that too.
Yeah, our
right now. It's
son,
really
does the
interesting.
exact same thing. And I used to do
Really?
that.
Oh my gosh.
As an adult, it's totally different.
Yeah.
Because you're like, I'm with my best person. Why would I not be showing my excitement? So anyway, but yeah, so celebrate your little wins.
I was more excited on our wedding day though. So that's
Yay.
Yeah, it's like it's a big accomplishment, and there was also something that you had said earlier about like figuring out, you might get intimidated by seeing a large number. But when you break that down maybe to a year, and maybe you need 35, 40,000, let's say, hypothetically, to live off of, and you're like, how's this going to happen? Well, maybe if with what you have enough for 25,000, then you only have to solve for the remainder.
Yes.
And that might mean working part-time. That might mean starting an entrepreneurial venture or some other method. Then it's less scary. Then the big number isn't as intimidating. But that's where educating yourself, getting in the right communities and circles, and content creators and information, right? Trustworthy information to help you along the process, so that you move from this, we talked about it before, human kind of default to no, to, hey, what's the art of the possible? Like, how can I do this? How can I get to this? And even if I get to this $1 million, and you're like, well, I don't know. I mean, I need to live. I may live to be 100. Okay, you might, or you might not, right? And so you don't need to take all the money out tomorrow. It's gonna, if it's invested right, it's gonna still grow. So you don't need to maybe get to 1 million. Maybe you only need to get to 500,000, and then start to pursue the things that you want to dream, right? You want to make your dream life now a reality. But this is where, these conversations and these platforms are so important to illustrate, because representation matters, right? Seeing people that look like you, that are living a life that you think other people, or you might think, can't be attained. It is possible. And it's not these celebrities driving, Jaguars or whatever they drive, or private planes or whatever, right? We're everyday millionaires, right? Regular people.
That's right.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So
I mean,
don't count yourself out.
Absolutely.
I feel like a lot of people do too, right? They don't give themselves the chance to be successul. And I'll tell a quick story. I have a million stories, so I'm getting old now, right? So I think that's part of this journey. But we were still in Singapore, and I've always had a business knack of figuring out things, not just for myself, but I think even more greatly for other people, right? Helping them solve their problems and find success. And so there was a guy that was there with his wife, and they had real estate investments in the US. And he was trying to search for a way to make extra income, like we all do as entrepreneurs, and not just sit there, because entrepreneurs always want to be solving problems, figuring things out, and you're tinkering, trying to figure things out business wise. And he had a skill set very similar to Stephanie's, where he's actually an engineer, but as and as an engineer, he has an analytical brain, but has a background in finance. And I said, and he was telling me how he calculated everything for their investments. And I said, so what you're telling me right now is you have a skill set where you can do P&Ls for all the things that you have. And I said, and you also have friends who own businesses that are losing money out the wazoo. I said, that's your business right there. I said, you start with your friends, figure out how to help them do a better job with their P&L, because whoever's doing it right now obviously is terrible, whether it's them or somebody else. And then you get testimonials from them proving that you're really good at your skill, because obviously you're a very intelligent human being with the things you've done. And then as you get those testimonials, you pursue other business owners and say, hey, are you having trouble with this? I can help you do this, obviously for a fee. I'll help you for a few months for free to get everything lined out. But anyway, everybody that's on this call, you can either up-level your skills or take your current skills that you have and turn them into a business to support other people in their goals. That's what life is, right? I think it's always trying to figure out how to help. At least for me, my motto is help others. It's always trying to figure out how to help other people, and then by doing so, you help yourself, right? And so,
exactly.
I think there's plenty of people that are probably on this call that have a skill set that they can take forward into filling that gap that we're talking about, right?
100%. I mean, that's what you both have done, right? You take in your
Yeah.
marketing, your passion for real estate, being able to pay off your house, right? Leveraging that. Now you're, look, I'll be tapping on your shoulder when I'm ready to look for my new place here in Portugal, Joseph. Just letting you know, send that
Hey, I
out.
found a great one. I found a great one today. So just let me
Oh,
know.
okay. Look, we'll be having conversations after the live, y'all. And also Stephanie, like, you were doing forecasting and you had this, I guess the best way to describe it is a light bulb moment. It's like, hey, if I can make all this money for this company, creating plans that they execute on, I could do this for my own company, my family, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. I tell people, if you want to learn how to build a business, go work in the supply chain. It is a business in itself. You see how cost works, how things move, marketing. Like, I just kept telling myself, I'm like, I didn't get an MBA, but I sure worked for one. And that's how it's working out. It's great.
Yeah,
It's been cool.
absolutely. Here's one from Wesley. How can you make it as a single person? I don't have the luxury of a dual income. Neither did I, Wesley.
There you go. Yeah, there you go.
Yep.
Yeah,
And it's
you
it's
know,
possible.
for us as, single individuals, I mean, I would say if I didn't have the kids and if I wasn't with Joseph, my ability to focus on increasing my income, that's what that's what I was doing. It was the bringing the financial literacy and action with that hard-earned income that was the missing part of the equation for a while. And so, as a single individual, yes, there may be things that are challenging without maybe tax stuff and all these other things that dual income can bring you. But if you can focus on your skills and putting those skills in areas where you can grow your career and your income, you're unstoppable. I really think. And I think part of that is also just being intentional about what you want with your career. When you voice what you want, when people know where you want to be, when you bring great work to the table. And I do like a class on leveling up your career and income, and it's all about being intentional about what you want out of your career. And we can call it manifesting, but it works.
Yeah.
And I think that there's a lot to say for that.
Manifesting with a plan.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'll add to that, as somebody who got to the millionaire status without having a partner, is, of course, the intentionality. And then also too, like there were times where I had a agenda or how I had envisioned my career path going. And I've shared on the channel recently, like I was laid off 5 times in 15 years of my corporate career. And so being able to have a plan, being able to have an emergency fund, being able to say no to certain things and realize that when I made the decision to end my marriage and be a single parent, that I had to, say no to certain things and also invest aggressively because I didn't have that other income. So I had to be very disciplined about like, okay, I'm not going to be buying, all these expensive things. I mean, I did travel, which I have no regrets, because we wouldn't have had this channel.
That's right.
But it was like finding those things that I can say, you know what, I can live without hitting Starbucks. I'll make my coffee at home. And it was like these little decisions. Or, hey, you know what? Instead of going to the salon all the time, I'm going to watch these YouTube videos and start doing my own hair. I'm going to, then pay off my car. And so I started to like make a game out of these things. And so, because I realized that worked well for me, the gamification aspect. And so I was like, oh, how fast can I pay off this car? Well, the last one was like 2 years. Let me see if I can do this in a year. Right. And then when I started getting laid off all the time, I was like, let's see, what company might be doing layoffs and can I work there? Because right, you got to figure out what works, turn your lemons into lemonade. Right. And sometimes it's just that mindset shift. And there are certain things that are within your control and some things that are not.
Yeah. And, Krishan, I'm not sure what your experience was in this, but talk to other people, build your network, ask
Yes.
around.
Mhm.
Every time I have a group coaching call and a woman comes on and she's like, I do want to make this change in my career. And then she lists all the reasons why she can't. And then there's
Wow.
another woman on the call that's like, call me after this. I have a few ideas for you.
Wow. Yeah.
Something in us getting in our own way sometimes is what just
Mm.
keeps us from taking that step forward. It's such an interesting thing. And I've done that myself. Like I know I did that for years. Joseph was telling me, go to Microsoft, go to Apple, like all your other coworkers are doing it. And I was like, no,
Yeah, it was
I gotta be
crazy.
loyal.
Yeah.
But I should have, honestly.
Mm.
Her coworkers would leave. This is over what, 15 years,
Mhm.
and then she'd be like, "Oh, so and so came back." I was like,
And
"Oh,
they're making
really?"
more money and
And
they
then
have a higher
yeah,
title.
they have a higher title and they're making way more money. I was like, and to your point, Krishan, I'm like I don't play games, but I do like the game of life because I think of it in the aspect of a game. Like, okay,
Mm-hmm.
we have this bill. What clients do I need to pay this bill for the year
Yeah.
or pay whatever, right?
Mhm.
And so for Stephanie, every time she would tell me about this, I'm like, so that person left and they're making a heck of a lot more money than whenever they were here originally. And they have like skipped 2 or 3 titles. It's like, why are you not playing the same
Why are
game?
we not
But I think that's the conditioning of
Mm-hmm.
what the old school used to be, is like, be loyal to this company for your entire life. And it's not that way anymore, right?
Yes.
It's work for this company 1 to 2 years, get the skill set you need, go somewhere else. But again, if you're conditioned, I mean, we're 40 now. We were conditioned by our parents, who were conditioned by not too long ago by other people who conditioned people to be that way.
Yeah.
You got to stay loyal to your job, right? So, yeah,
Mhm.
I mean, it's not your fault.
No, it worked out fine, but still, I could have made some different decisions. So, yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So the person who asked that question, yeah, continue, trying to gamify this life. I think taking tips from Krishan and other people that have done it. Don't be afraid to learn from those people that are doing what you want to do and then implementing those things.
Mm-hmm. Very true. Oh, yes. Greta said, if you're getting close to getting Social Security, that's also a big help. Yes. Yes.
Mhm.
That's a
Mhm.
bonus check.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's right.
That's that Starbucks check.
Oh, wait, I hit the button too fast. So what's Stephanie's contact info in her email or website address? So you have a potential new client. So I linked the spreadsheet because I know some of you have asked in the chat. It's in the description of the video. So
Yeah.
definitely hit that up.
My Instagram handle is there as well. So you can reach out to me, send me a DM. It's all there.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
Look
if
forward to talking to you.
there you go. Yes, definitely check that out. And if you have any trouble, I'll double check the description, but I know at least the links that you sent me, they are there.
Yeah.
They are there. Let's see. There was another one. And then we're going to wrap this up soon, y'all. Jess said, do you have to go back to the US and Portugal? Was the visa process and moving pretty smooth? Do you have pets?
Very different than most people's. Do you have to go back? So I'll answer it this way. Well, I guess Krishan can also answer this, but yes, if you come to Portugal for your visit to look around or whatever you're going to do, find a house, find a rental property, you do have to go back to the US. You have 90 days to be here, and you have to be in the US to get all your documentation done.
You have to submit in your country of residence.
Yeah, you have to submit in your country of residence. Now you can come get your NIF, which that's a whole other conversation, and your bank account set up, but you do have to be back in the US. We were in Singapore and we used the US consulate, and that is another 30-minute to an hour story. But yeah, the answer in short, you do have to be back in the US in order to get your documentation done.
Wherever your country of residence is, and you have to have been there for a year for it to be your established country of residence where you start your visa process. And so we did our visa process DIY. We researched tons, right? Facebook groups are super helpful. I would say the move was as smooth as it could have been. We were really scared that it might not have gotten approved for interesting passport reasons just in Singapore, but we had backup plans, and we would have been in Indonesia for a year probably if it didn't work out. But it was as smooth as it could have been. And I would say the thing that I think made it as smooth as it was is we got a furnished apartment when we moved here, and with 2 little kids, that was awesome. We did have a dog, and we really rationalized a lot. Was this move the right thing for her?
I'll start crying.
Was this move the right thing for her? And it wasn't. She was getting older, and the move to Singapore was really hard on her.
Yeah, it was really difficult.
And we knew that we were going to be up and very mobile a lot, just trying to figure out where we wanted to ultimately live. And we didn't want to put her through that. And so Joseph did a great job looking for families in Singapore, and we rehomed her to a great family.
Yeah, we interviewed people. Kids. She stayed the night at their house. Oh, yeah, it was a big thing.
She came home and pretty much looked at us and was like, "This is the family."
Yeah.
So
wow.
Yeah. We do have other friends though that have pets that have small dogs. And Krishan probably. I didn't know that. But
Bailey.
Their process.
Bailey.
Okay, so their process, our other friends' process seems to be fairly smooth right now. So I think just getting all the proper documentation for your animal.
Yeah. And we had, for those of you who are watching live or watching the replay, as I talked about it at the top of the conversation, Joseph was a speaker at the Move to Portugal Virtual Summit that we held last year, myself and Our Black Utopia. You can purchase the replays to those. So you can find that also in the description of the video. And we also had sessions on moving with pets, moving abroad with children, looking at different
schools. So much. There's so much information packed into that. Was it a week long?
No, it was, what did we do? 3 days?
3 days.
Friday, 3 days. That was Saturday, a lot of information. 3 days. My goodness.
That was like a marathon.
No.
You guys did a great job.
Thank you. Greta asks, I had an interesting conversation with someone who's 50 plus, running into age discrimination. Ooh, yeah. Have you had clients who have encountered this in pursuing FIRE? Great question.
I've had clients who have worked with me that are 50 plus, and they haven't necessarily run into it, but they are thinking really hard about it and thinking about how, if they did make a pivot career-wise, what that would mean, and does their age play into that? And so it is a real thing. I completely acknowledge that. And I think this is where the power of your network and being super intentional about it is super important. You've got great skill, years and years of experience, and there's a way of being able to get to the point that you want to get to. It just takes more than filling out job applications and going in cold, I think.
That is so true. Because so everybody knows, right? And a little more than 2 months, I'll be turning 50. And and as I was getting in my career, and I'm like, wow, you know what? I wasn't thinking of retirement, right? It was like, you guys are 65, as society says. But the reality was, I was in marketing, digital marketing, and in a, whatever, Fortune 50, Fortune 100, one of them things. Anyway, the point was, I realized that the older I was getting, the bigger the target on my back. And I was already facing some headwinds of, being a Black woman in corporate America. And I'm like, okay, now add a big 50 and a plus after that, right? Like, so I knew that I had to leverage my skills in a different way. And that's when I had started a business in 2013 when I got laid off. And that helped me get my feet wet and understanding how to run a business. And I made some, you make all your mistakes like any human being every day, right? But that earlier business helped me be more successful when I created Black to Global, because I had, learned not to chase money and really to focus on operationalizing things and learning and playing to my strengths and things like that. But all that is to say is that there are realities in this world: ageism, discrimination, racism. And so you might be facing those headwinds, and there are things that you cannot change. I cannot change, nor would I ever, being a Black woman, nor would I ever change about being a fabulous 50. But how I embrace it mentally, right? I'm excited about it. I'm not shying away from it. I think that also plays a role in it. So, sometimes it means that you have to just turn it on its head. How do I use these things as assets working for me, instead of paying attention rather to the headwinds that might exist before me?
Yeah. You're saying this, and I'm really thinking about my mom right now. And she's 60. She just turned 60 this past year.
Wow.
And you talk to this woman going into a job interview, and she's like, this interview is something I'm not going to lose. The woman has this confidence about her skill set and all the education that she's worked so hard for. It's been really cool to see. And just the stories, right? And she's uneffable, in my opinion. And it's been really interesting to see her navigate this period of her life where, for some at 60 plus, they'd be going, I don't know if I can go get another job. And I get that. She's just
she up levels her skills all the time.
going for it. Yeah, she really does.
Yeah.
She's intentional about it.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
interesting.
That's a great point. Up level your skills. Like, there's so many things. It's rich territory. And I think I am Karen Louise. You are going to be the last question for tonight. Stefanie and Joe, you both have achieved a great deal. What are some of your goals that you have yet to achieve? Ooh, nice way to end this one.
Yeah, you had this whole list on the board, and now I don't see them anymore. I feel like we erased them.
Because we hit 40 and can't see that far anymore.
Look, wait till you get to 50.
Oh man.
I think one of the things we were talking about, and this is a very broad goal, but we want to be able to live in any country, no matter the circumstances, if we need to live in any country. For our family, whether the taxes change here, and I think just having the freedom to do that broadly, that's the goal. I think there's a number that it's not going to be just like this infinite number, because I do have a problem with being like, what is the goal? Like, it's never ending, right? Sometimes I look at like, I don't need to build $1 billion business. That's not what I'm here for.
Yeah.
But I do think that being able to have that kind of freedom, and one really cool goal would be like, can we educate our children at home and pay the right people to educate them? That'd be so cool.
Yeah. I mean, I think we have to be careful in the things. Sometimes when we talk about goals, and we have to think back to where we started, right? Like, I think I wrote something down. Stephanie and I were joking about, like, we're two broke brown people, right? Like that. We're like,
we were going to write it a book. We were going to make that a book.
Make that a book.
We wrote it down, actually.
So that's where we started.
I love that.
To everybody. But yeah, I think like having the ability to live wherever you want to live and not think twice about spending money. And I think just knowing that you can wake up any day, and this is from a very lazy perspective after working really hard and being up way late a lot of nights, but waking up and going, I don't need to go to work today, which we're kind of like that at this point in time. But I think that, and not having to answer to anybody else except for government, because government. But I think for me, that's one of the things. And I think just like this morning, whenever I woke up, I told Stephanie, I was like, I am so thankful to be able to wake up next to you this morning, right? And just having the time and space to be able to do that, because sometimes as a couple, when you're working really hard towards a goal, you forget to do those things, right? There's small things like putting toothpaste on the other person's toothbrush. These things are things that we want to continue to have. And I know this is about finances, but having the finances allow you to have that mental space to enjoy these things. And so I think we just want to continue to build that up, and also for our children as well, so that whenever they get to our age, they're gonna have less worries. We'll see what happens. They're kind of silly right now, but we'll see what happens whenever they get older. They're only, 3 and 5, but I think giving them that ability to have these type of decisions as well, and watch us navigate this and make mistakes, but also continue to fail forward. So I think that's part of our goals as we move forward as a couple. Just keep failing forward, because if you don't fail forward, you're not failing, you're not trying. And so we would rather continue to try to reach these goals.
Mm-hmm. Embrace it. Embrace the journey, because there's a lesson there. There's always a lesson. So I like that. Feel forward. I like that. Forward progression. Well, with that, I want to thank you both for carving out time to spend with us. Well, this evening for us. Well, really night for us, evening for East Coast folks. Talking about a topic that, it got us here, right? Talking about finances, demystifying it, educating it ourselves on finances and how money works got us to where we are. And continuing to have these discussions enables us, as you go through different stages, right? Well, we're not talking about it tonight because we're always saying, drawdown strategies and things like that. And it's always an evolution. And so, just like currency, it flows, right? So too should your education continue to flow and evolve. And so I appreciate you being so transparent and sharing your journey with this audience tonight. Always a pleasure to be in your presence. And y'all hit the like button, like Jess said. Please subscribe to Permission to Be Wealthy if you have not already. They're fabulous people. And if you want more, like I said, the links are there. If you want to watch the replays of the Move to Portugal Virtual Summit, you can also hit those links there too. In the meantime, be well. I'll be back next week at 5:30 and we will continue to talk about financial literacy. Since it's still April, we'll wrap it up talking about debt payoff next week. So hopefully I'll see you then. Till then, ciao, ciao.
Thank you.